medical missionary has an advantage over other typical missionaries who may focus on evangelism or church planting or leadership development. Because it may take a while for most missionaries to be able to begin to see the fruit of their labors. A medical missionary has the advantage of making an immediate difference. A surgeon's ability, for example, to quickly identify the source of pain and then be skilled enough to remove it or repair the problem is a special blessing. And so God's call upon Vic was not just to be a gifted surgeon, one who knew that both his calling and his gifts were indeed from God, and one who knew that God was the ultimate healer. But God's call upon Vic's life on behalf of Haiti was more than just to alleviate pain and suffering. God knew it would take a very special person who would remain committed for the long haul and who would not be easily deterred by all the obstacles that he would face in the process. And so God touched Vic's heart for the people of Haiti, and he invested enormous resources in the process. For in Vic, he found someone who was willing to have the patience, to give the time, who had the energy, who continued to learn, who was resourceful in so many ways and gave so much of himself and his own resources to make a difference. I first met Vic and Donna when they came to our church in Auburn, Indiana, to speak at a missions conference. And it was around 1990, give or take a year, and I could not have imagined at that time that within just a very short time that I would move into a new relationship with them and I would work closely with them over the next 15 years. I have to admit, Steve, I have to admit that I too was first intimidated by Vic when I came into this role. Maybe it was this doctor thing. Maybe it was the fact that I really easily recognized that he knew so much about so much and could do so much very well. I think one of my first trips to Haiti, I walked into his office and what is the surgeon doing? He's tearing apart a copy machine trying to fix it. Now, this is different. Maybe it was the fact that he just seemed to continue to learn. He was an avid reader and a lifelong learner, as it's been expressed. He was someone who was always interested in what was happening beyond his own life in Haiti. He continued to ask questions about other missionaries and how the work was progressing in other fields. Of course, always interested in Bangladesh because he had been there and helped to start the surgical practice there. I admired him for his sacrificial service, his determined attitude, and his very gracious spirit. He was always a Christian gentleman. Even when he was occasionally frustrated by Haitians, and by other missionaries, and by decisions which the Cross-Cultural Commission and I would make. Always a gentleman, always gracious. On more than one occasion, he would write, "I may not agree with the boss, but he's always right." And then he added, on one occasion, "My dad always taught me to honor, respect, and support the boss." And then in parentheses, he said, "Our Savior, and you all." And he said, "That I will continue to do to the best of my abilities." And then he said, "Every one of us, what we do is a self-portrait. And what we're doing in Haiti, we want to be first class and do a first-class job in every work we do." With that kind of attitude, he was a teacher of Haitians. He was a teacher to guests and visitors who came. And it was a joy to bring people, especially first-time visitors, to Haiti. And we would sit around the table, and he named the subject. He could talk about it, and he had ideas and opinions about it. And just was able to wow people with what he was able to share. So knowledgeable. I learned a lot from him. It took a while to work through some communication issues. He wanted to know early on more of what I was thinking, and I didn't always share everything I was thinking because I had confidence in him. I wasn't always getting sufficient information from him, and so at times early on we both misinterpreted each other's ideas and motivations until we could finally clear the air. And he would say, on more than one occasion, he said, I have thick skin. I'm not easily offended. Over the past 15 years, there's no missionary with whom I've communicated more than Vic. I always appreciated his long letters, for they provided clarity. We found that when he wrote short notes or short emails, he would leave out stuff. Really essential stuff. And sometimes our treasurer, Bob Stevenson, or I would have to reply, okay, what did you mean here? Or what about this? He would just omit it or overlook it. And he would provide the answer. One letter, and so the long letters did come, and they were great. They helped us, and we sometimes dealt with some big issues. One letter entitled 101 Solutions to the Personnel Situation, all tempered by prayer, of course. Well, he didn't really list 101 solutions, but he listed quite a few. And it was obvious he'd given a lot of thought to it, and he considered lots of different options. One lengthy letter ended with, I remain your humble, if too verbal, servant. His humor always came through. Concerned early on about putting too much responsibility on a missionary, and this was really before my time, Vic quoted Mark Twain, don't try to teach a pig to sing. It wastes your time and it frustrates the pig. He concluded one letter with several items of good news, and then he added in conclusion, trying to think of some bad news, but cannot at the moment. We'll try to find some later to add. It must be around here somewhere. Having both a father and mother as preachers, the influence of preaching had to rub off on him, and he would use it exceptionally well in his writing, in his newsletters. In December 1991, he would say, mission programs in Haiti have tended to make the Haitians a nation of receivers, dependent on others. But God blesses the givers. Disciples are to be givers and doers. Perhaps we in the States have lost our focus too. We think God is blessing us by giving us so much, never realizing that we turn to God in our time of need, not in our prosperity. It is in our giving, he says, that we are more blessed of God, not in our receiving. For even in our prosperity, we will focus on caring for ourselves and our family, and not on making disciples. He had a way of communicating theology in those prayer letters, more than just news. His example and his teaching encouraged all of us. He wrote in one newsletter, I've discovered that often when things don't go the way I think they should, God is saying that he has a much better plan for us. But sometimes he also wants us to push a little too. Yesterday he reminded me of that, and so I'm pushing a little. If God has a better plan, then so much the better. God will accomplish his purpose. And several times we've heard today that there is this undeniable conviction that Vic had of the sovereignty of God. God was in charge. And God was at work in his life.